We're going to start with Mr. Moss. I think you're speaking to us about.
When he comes to us tonight, he wants to talk to us about the possibility of the jail consolidation. He has some concerns about the prison.
Okay.
Chapel.
Thank you for your time, Council Chairman. Just a few things I want to bring to your attention about the chapel out there at the prison. It's a lot of sweat and tears been put in there. I'm a senior chaplain now. I've been going there since 2005, and we've been doing a lot of great things there. And I hate to see it close. A lot of people have been rehabilitated there. If you change the way a man thinks, you can change the way he lives. And that's what we're doing. It's no different than what y'all doing. Y'all doing it with buildings, we're doing it with these buildings. Amen. But nevertheless, we are here trying to influence them to do the right thing when they get out. I would rather see a person with a mind change on the outside, knowing that they've been in touch with the Lord. And year before last, we had 300 new converts when we baptized 150 out there. So our work is not in vain. And I can show you records of some of them pastoring churches right now. So the roots are there, the ground cover's there. And my prayer is that we can keep the chapel open. That it's been a lot of sweat and tears. Edward Kelly going on to be with the Lord, and he had a lot to do with that. And I think that that's a part of Pickens County, and it's a part of Pickens County that should live and not die. Should live and not die. And I thank you for your time, but it's sort of like this. We can find ways to help others, but when you put that one-on-one contact with them, you guide them where you need them. And like I said, when you change the way a man thinks, you can change the way you live. And that's what we're doing, pumping the word of God in. And as we do that, they're changing. You're not gonna get them all, amen. But we got 150 out there right now, amen, if you will say that really need our help. And I'm not saying to change the whole universe. If we everybody get those to get on their hook, life will be a whole lot better, wouldn't it? Sheriff wouldn't have a job. We done fished the pole and dry, amen. But what I need y'all to see tonight is that people come crying and hurt, damaged, used and abused. This ain't the time to push them away. This is the time to put your arm around the love. But Jesus is love. And the more we do that, the better citizens we'll make in our community. Now, if we just push them in there and lock them up and throw away the keys, what you think they're gonna be when they come out? Give us opportunity. Give us a chance with the chapel open to see can we have strong men that come out of there. We go back into society, take care of their children, and take care of their families. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask some questions?
Sure.
Tell me what our situation, we have a separate building.
Yes, sir, we do. Well, as we discussed last week, there's a possibility we may merge the stockade and the prison into one unit under the sheriff, consolidate and save some of the new positions. Currently, we've got a prison here with a chapel next door to the chapel. The prisoners that Mr. Moss is talking about is our work release, our low, nonviolent, and Rick could probably attest to this a little better than I can. Once we move those inmates from that facility to the new jail, there'll be some transportation issues and logistics of bringing them back and forth to the chapel.
I'm saying we can still continue to keep the chapel open and they have their services to do what they need to do.
That would be strictly the sheriff. I think there's logistic issues there.
Let me go back, let me start. What if you had, instead of the opportunity to have a chapel, you had 3 or 4 rooms, we had one large room right there in our new facility? Because the first thing we designed out of this was places for people to meet with mental health, behavioral health, and Christians, and or faith, anybody with faith. So that was developed in there where we can have small settings, and then there's one larger room for the people who are sentenced who are less dangerous to us, have that. That's all designed into this building. We'll have places there. If we need a chapel for our sentenced inmates, we can have to do that if that's important to that. But we've designed, as the first thing I did is where I can get mental health, behavioral health, and the local church community in there to see them as much as possible. If that's, like I said, that's the brick and mortar of that now. If you need a church or something, we can work something out. But that was the first thought that I had of what we're doing to rehabilitate people.
How big is that room? What's a meeting room? Like how many
people can stand?
I would say it's
twice as big as this room.
I'm gonna say it's as big as this room here.
Maybe a little bigger.
we'll be able to move stuff out, chairs, tables will be on rollers, and we can customize that right there, so. I think you can win as many hearts and souls in a room just like this as you can in a church, a chapel.
So you're telling me that the chapel is closed?
No, sir, I'm telling you, this is the first thought I have.
Okay.
I'm telling you what our building is gonna have in it to start with.
All right.
Now, if the chapel is important or something, we may come up, we just have to talk about it, come up with busing
Thank you.
out there.
All I
Is
ask
there-
that you consider.
is there a way to- Go ahead, sorry.
How big is the chapel building? Do you know how many feet wide and how many feet long, approximately?
I think it's 90 by, I think it's about 90 by 60, if I'm not mistaken. With a baptism and all instruments on the main, organ, piano, all kind of guitar, bass, and that's praise and worship, that's what we do. But I just want y'all to consider, just let it float around in your mind. Jesus didn't throw nobody away, and we don't need to be thrown away here.
How many, you don't?
Not quite. One
Go ahead.
idea that I have is maybe we could get some churches together to build them a chapel on the new campus. Do we have room to do that?
Not right now, but there's a possibility of expansion.
Could we move that building? I know that's an idea.
Yeah,
You know, 60 by 90.
I'm gonna give you a 30-second answer, as Ken always said. I'm sure it could be moved. What would it cost, what's the logistics? I really don't know the answer to that. But I'm sure it could be moved at some point in time, but what it would involve, I have no idea.
If we had a building on site, is there a way to do this like we've done with prison, I mean, similar, where you can have?
The inside, yeah, I think we get back to some type of Butler building that's nice on the inside, which a lot of churches are now Butler buildings.
Right. But something on site that would be a chapel of some sort.
And the main focus is casting nets, and we have a lot of fish for you to
Yes, sir.
cast.
I'm with you. I pastor a church in Pendleton that does this, also work for Anderson County, so I find people in Anderson are screaming to come to Pickens, because they love what we got.
How many people come through your doors, Chapel, at the prison?
On Sunday evening, I'm getting at least 80%.
I mean, how many number-wise, 80% of what?
Well, it varies to see how many people's in there.
Roughly
If it's 60, we roughly get 40.
But you said something about 150.
Yeah, I mean, that was just a number I threw out there. You know, it could go up to 100 without a problem.
Depends on how long they're there.
We got state and county.
Population, we were told, is not quite that.
No, it's not that. It's not. That's just a number I threw out there. And I want you to know we're doing a great work, and I bid you Godspeed, and whatever decision you come up with, we're gonna live with it.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm pretty sure we'll probably find you somewhere to be able to services.
I'm not gonna find out how it's at Town Central, so you didn't look me up anywhere.
Yeah, we'll find.
But I thank you for your time. Hope it didn't take up too much.
Thank you for your
But
services.
It's definitely a thing we need to take a look at.
Don't worry, you're not gonna go out of business.
Good.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, sir. Have a great evening.
Next time you wanted to, Mr. Miller?
Yeah, Mr. Jim Miller of the Vineyard wanted to come and talk to you about the 2 fire trucks that we did not include in the recommended budget this year. Mr. Miller?
Okay, yeah. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jim Miller, and I'm chairman of the Vineyards Fire Board of Commissioners. I've written down my comments because I know that time is of the essence, and so if you'll forgive me, I'm gonna read it. And, but then at the end, I'd certainly be glad to answer any questions or have as much discussion as you all want to. On behalf of the Vineyards Fire District Board of Commissioners, I would like to request the reinstatement of an item, really 2 items, that were included in our recommended budget and reviewed with our stakeholders, but was removed in a previous county council meeting. Our 2 main fire pumpers were put into service in 2004. Our current budget request called for the specification and ordering of 2 replacement pumpers for delivery in 2019. At that point, the existing pumpers will have reached the 15-year age at which the NFPA, National Fire Protective Association, recommends that they be replaced as first-line pumpers. recall if you were at the Emergency Services Board reporting session, their original thing, they stated that's their goal ultimately, is to comply with those recommendations throughout the county. But in any case, also, the delivery of these units will coincide with the final payments on the bond issue which paid for the original units. The requested investment of around $600,000 each, when financed by a bond, is not expected to require any significant change in the current finance charges, and thus the total millage for the Vineyards Fire District should not have to be changed as a result. As you know, the Vineyards Fire Department is dedicated to continuing the current exceptional level of service to residents of our district. It is our intent to have adequate, well-trained, full-time and volunteer firefighters, as well as equipment that meets or exceeds all requirements and recommendations of the NFPA. As our turnout gear and air packs have met the recommended age for replacement, we have done so. We've replaced those items as they are needed and wish to continue this practice. The turnout gear and air packs that were replaced have found use in other Pickens County fire districts, which have not been as fortunate as we have in revenue supported by our residents. The two engines which we intend to replace are still in excellent condition due to the high level of maintenance and the relatively low hours of service. They could similarly be of use in replacement of some of the much older first-line pumpers currently in service throughout the county. Thus, we believe our budget request contributes to the goal of improving overall service capabilities in Pickens County, regardless of what or when decisions are made by council regarding the latest recommendation for the Emergency Services Study Group. So we would say to please reinstate the inclusion of our new trucks in our 2018-19 budget. And I'll be happy to answer any questions or have a discussion if you'd like to hear more. We feel that basically allowing us to replace those units will not incur any additional millage in the part of the Vineyards people from what they're paying now, because the existing bond will expire. And the equipment which will then be available for others will still be much better than a lot of the other fire districts currently have to work with. So we think it's a win-win for everybody.
Are you talking about donating, if it were to go through, are you talking about donating the older pumpers?
Well, I guess we have to talk about that. They'd be available anyway. I mean, their value, I think, is, as I understand it, the value as a trade-in, if you will, is probably somewhere around $75,000 a piece. So I guess in principle, we would like to have a reimbursement for that, but we would certainly be negotiable.
Because you're talking about helping others, and also what that comes to mind, if the county were to go to consolidated districts, I mean, it belongs to the county anyway,
Right.
correct?
Right, yeah, that's exactly.
As a goodwill gesture.
Yes.
Moving,
And I'm
because
sure
everybody
they would
else,
do it.
if it does, everybody else would be paying for what you got. Share the wealth somewhere else and donate to those others.
Right, yes, yeah, I'm sure we can do that.
And what's the length of the bond if it were?
Pardon me?
What's the length of the bond, 15 years?
Well,
It's
we
typically
would,
what we
probably
do is
15, that's for a piece of equipment.
Yeah, that's generally most of the bank wants to go is 15 years on a piece of equipment.
15 years ago, were these trucks 600,000 a piece?
640.
So they were the same price?
I don't know what the original.
I think that, I don't recall, I think they were probably less, but also I believe the interest rates now would be considerably better than they were 15 years ago. At least my understanding was that you had done some looking at that and that we were anticipating that the capital millage would not be significantly
That's our
changed.
intent, was to keep the millage the
Right.
same or thereabouts and not have a significant impact on it.
Right.
I just don't see how a 15-year-old truck costs the same as a truck today. That's my only concern with that. I mean, you look at, we were talking about Colorado's and S10s, you know, those a day, 2,000, you could buy an S10 for $5,000. Go find a pickup truck off car lot for $5,000 a day. You're not gonna do it. And that's my only concern there. We're really talking apples for apples here.
You mean that whether the bond millage that would be required would indeed be similar to what it's paying now? Well, I don't know, I think you worked on that, as I recall.
It all comes down to the price of the truck.
Yeah. Well, and as we told council at the first council meeting, the whole intent is we don't know what council wants to do on the consolidation. If you go ahead and issue a bond, say 15 years, 10 years, and then you consolidate, they in essence got 2 fire trucks brand new that the whole unincorporated area along with 6 Mile and Liberty are gonna be paying for. So we just wanna be a little bit patient, get y'all's thoughts on what you wanna do. If you don't wanna consolidate, and we probably would've recommended doing the fire trucks. If you do wanna consolidate, then I think we gotta drop back and look at what are the needs of all the fire districts.
Well,
And to counter what you're saying on that, if, say for example, they got their trucks, right? All right, or say they didn't get the trucks, and the district consolidated, then they got their trucks. The whole county's gonna be paying for it anyway, right?
If they got the
See,
trucks,
the-
if they're recommended, because I think we have trucks that are older than 2004 trucks.
But eventually they would need replacing.
Eventually, but it's more of a priority of, who needs more what at the current time. I think they don't have the newest pumpers or fire trucks, but they surely don't have the oldest ones. And I think that's what.
But what about another concern is the other 2 getting donated to another district? What kind of help would that be?
I'm not sure about the fire side, but I know one thing we talked about is we wouldn't, take any equipment from any district unless they approved it.
But
So,
if they
well,
donated it?
yeah, that we didn't know at the time. You know, they're talking about, well, they'd like to be reimbursed for
Well,
that cost, but.
As I said, that's certainly, I mean, it's certainly up for discussion, and I think there'd be no problem with it.
We just took a little
That's
patience,
reasonable.
we took a little patience to see what council wants to do with consolidation before we
Well,
move forward.
it-
It was as simple as that.
And say that folks in the county do not want consolidated district.
Right.
It doesn't come to that. What's the difficulty in them doing a bond to replace it?
Not a whole bunch. That's what I'm saying, we probably would've rolled right along, I don't wanna speak for Gerald, but we probably would've rolled right along if we knew what council wants to do on consolidation. The only thought would be is, you know, if we went ahead and issued the bonds, and then we consolidate, we have to take on that debt for the unincorporated area. They're in essence getting 2 brand new fire trucks, when the other fire districts have pumpers that are older than that. That's merely the only point, otherwise we would've rocked and rolled along with what they requested.
Is your question, Councilman, is it your question, what, could we do this in 6 months, could we do this in 4 months, could we do this? in
Oh,
8?
the fire district, it's gonna take a year or 2.
No, I mean in terms of
Oh,
issuing the bond.
That, yeah, if it comes, yes. And is it something that's gotta be done within a certain time period, or you can wait and do it later?
Ralph wants
To issue a bond, all we'd have to do is get with our financial advisor, do 3 readings, a public hearing, put them out for bids for the banks to, give us the best interest rates, you know, bid that out, and then do an RFP for the fire trucks, and I think what is the lead time, generally 6 months from once they get a PO? 6 to 8 months.
I
I've
was gonna
always
say,
heard.
it might be closer to a year.
Yeah, I've always heard 6 to 8 months,
Right.
depending on top of the, fire, piece of equipment that they're asking for.
One of my concerns with that concept, frankly, is that we've been told, and I believe it is true, that, I mean, we have an excellent fire department, and that even if there were a consolidation, nothing would be done to reduce that it's not a concept of equalizing all the fire districts, but rather trying to improve those that need to be improved and make them better. And we think this is a way to do that. The implication is that, well, once there's a consolidation, gee, the Vineyards already has really good stuff, so they don't need it anymore. So we can put all the money elsewhere, or potentially take what they have and distribute it throughout the county, which defeats the purpose of keeping us at the level where we are and raising the rest of the county up. And by our supplying these trucks, that yes, we would have newer trucks than the 15-year-old trucks that we currently do, but we're also willing to pay for them. I mean, if there isn't a consolidation, we'll continue to pay for them, just like we have paid for the original ones, through the millage that we have. So I think delaying ordering the trucks, number one, gets us another year down the road or whatever with the existing trucks. But I'm also concerned about that implication of gee, if we consolidate, why would we give the vineyards new equipment? I mean, they already have pretty good equipment, which I don't like. I mean, we have that good equipment because we've had people that supported us, and we have a millage that supports it, and we've bought that. And the turnout gear out of our regular budgets, as those units get old enough, and I think it's 8 years or something, that they're supposed to be replaced, whether they're worn out or not, we've done that. And as I said, we've supplied those units to other departments who have equipment in a lot worse shape than that. And the same thing would happen with the fire trucks.
Is there a, and I'm just asking, you know, let's say we do consolidate and we do a millage rate, okay? Is there room to set up special tax districts for existing things? So that people in those particular areas would pay for what's in their areas that they'd already had on the books? That's just a thought.
There's, if you consolidate, to go to the premise of your question, if you consolidate, you're gonna have to have one mechanism of taxing now.
Right, but then inside of that,
Right.
could we have, because we have special tax districts now in Pickens County.
So you're saying like we do, like we've done with
Sedgwood subdivision.
Sedgwood, yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that. Is it possible, and I'm asking the question, is it possible to set up, because this may not be the only situation when we have some larger amount of debt that's outstanding out there, and you could say, because they have this, not to put that burden on the rest of the county, but because of their choice to do that, to set it up that if they want to do that and they have the funds to do for it, is there a way to set where you had your standard millage and then had a special tax subdivision set up for that particular purpose?
It would take a lot of thought, but the theory at least makes sense to me.
So it could be done.
Right, well, it makes sense to me that it could be. We'd have
See,
to check that.
I
think
kinda
that-
like the idea, but then I question, how do you decide, okay, we'll do that with the vineyards, because they want.
Yeah, understand
I'm
it.
using him as an example because he's here, and I'm gonna use Carl because he's sitting beside me. But we'll do that with the vineyards, because they want new fire trucks, and that's cool, that's great, they're willing to carry their debt. But Carl's debt, Dacusville's debt, they can't afford, so how do you understand what I'm saying, how do you say, we're gonna do it here, but we're not gonna do
Well,
it here?
I was thinking in terms of people that already had current debt at the time of the consolidation. In other words, if they said, hey, they pay a higher rate up there than the rest of the county does right now.
But if they don't do this, their rate will go down.
Right, but they are chosen, they're willing to pay the higher rate because they want certain level.
But then we're not consolidating.
Right.
Well,
That's part of consolidation.
like I said,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking outside my head.
I'm liking it.
And just saying, is there a way to?
Because I want to tell y'all this, when I went and visited with them and talked about that stuff, and no, I didn't get shot. But no, they want to keep their millage. Their millage is, I think, going up to maybe 50.5, 50. Yeah, low 50. That's twice of the recommended millage. They don't care about that. They want to keep their millage to keep what they got. And they've worked hard to get where they're at. And I get that part, but coming up with the answer to the solution.
Here's my side on that. If we keep talking about all the kingdoms that have been built, and this is no offense at all to you guys up there, because y'all guys even done an incredible job with what you have, and blessed to live in the area that you do. But as each area creates their own kingdom, well, we want to have two. Dacusville wants to have 2 more trucks. We can't afford it, now we're going right back to where we started from. Instead of consolidating, we're staying with the issue of those different kingdoms, so that everybody that lives in that area, they pay for their stuff, and these people pay for their stuff, and we don't work together on that. There is not really a consolidation on that. That's how I see it.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Aren't we're gonna have this question answered probably by November?
That's,
Would you
we've
not
asked for, yeah.
say, this question on whether we're gonna do it or not will be decided by November?
That's what we've talked about, having the recommendation from the existing group, or putting it, we
So
talked
if it
about
doesn't
possibility
go
of
to
putting it on record.
consolidation, at that point, let's say it doesn't pass, the vineyards could, go ahead with the bond issue, you know, whatever the drugs are, we're not talking about that long a period of time.
Yeah. Y'all can amend the budget at any time and start a budget ordinance for a bond ordinance at any time.
They put you a year behind on delivery, but it wouldn't affect the millage. Your millage would stay, continue to pay.
Yeah, they got the millage for 2019, that's gonna stay on the books, to pay off that debt. It'll be 2020 is what you're looking at, where it'll drop off if we don't have any new, debt come on.
Right, and I think that the concept that was raised of having some provision that a district, we, for example, could agree to pay more money and have more services is almost gonna need to be put in, because if a countywide millage is initiated and you go to the whole county and say, okay, we're gonna start charging you 25 mils for fire services. And, oh, by the way, the vineyards taxes are gonna go down by 50%, because they're only gonna pay 25, and they've been paying 50.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate, so why wouldn't we just charge you more millage in your district for regular taxes and let y'all bear more of the burden for the taxpayers for all of Pickens County? In other words, you pay, we all pay a millage, we all pay a millage throughout the county.
Yeah.
But you're saying we wanna pay more.
Well, what we're saying is we wanna keep the level of equipment and services that we have, and we're
Right.
willing
They're
to pay
willing
more
to.
for that. We
Okay.
don't wanna pay more,
So
but.
Right.
what we're getting is we're getting government one size fits all.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't like one size fits all, and I don't like redistribution. And I think we're getting a little bit, well, this is what we're gonna be, so if these guys are willing to pay more because they want more services,
Then we should consider.
then there ought to be some way to accommodate if people say, hey, I want this, and then we're gonna tell them you can't have it.
Right, no, that's a great point,
I wanna, since we're talking consolidation here, we don't do it with EMS or fire, EMS or the sheriff's office. I mean, if the vineyard said, hey, we're willing to pay another 20 mils if you put an ambulance up here, will we do it?
But I guess.
Cause I'm willing to bet they would do it. You got one close to that, don't you now?
Holly Springs.
Yeah, it's close-ish.
That's reasonably close,
Yeah, so you'd pay 10 if I could put one closer, right? But you understand what I'm saying though?
You know, I think with the sheriff though, you've got cars that go through the entire county.
Well, let's go with EMS
Okay.
then, it's all public safety.
Well, because we have fire stations in different areas. that
We have
people
EMS
pay for.
stations in different areas, and they're all paid off of the general county millage.
Now, what about areas like Clemson that, deals with the university, gets their fire service from the university? Are people in Clemson going to be involved in
For
this
fire?
also?
For fire?
For
No,
what's
because it's
Clemson?
in the city.
City.
One
Right.
thing on the fire service
Cities
is
are not gonna do
different, is homeowners' insurance policies. That's what makes it different from the sheriff's office or EMS. The fire service directly on what level of fire service you have directly affects your homeowner's policy. And I imagine with the homes in the vineyards, that's pretty substantial.
And that was really the driving force for establishing the department
Yeah.
and working to where we've gotten it now to an ISO 3 rating. And that's another concern
Yeah.
with the consolidation, that we wouldn't want to see that increased, reduced,
I heard
let's
some
say,
of those figures,
by,
and they were-
which it probably would be.
I've also had an opportunity at the USA Festival to talk to some of the guys, and they were talking with the ISO folks. They've got more information to come bring to us later about if we do the consolidation, how you can still district out the ISO rating so that it doesn't change for any of those districts. In other words, the ISO districts stay the same, but there's one rural fire district. So I think there's ways around the ISOs. I don't think that's gonna be an issue at all.
Only would be if as long as the personnel and equipment that we have in the district stays the same.
Correct.
It doesn't get degraded or redistributed or whatever.
Yeah, I don't see a reason to degrade what we've got in different areas, though. Why would we do that?
But I think what argument they had when I went to visit with them is when you prioritize, you got some districts pretty hard up right now. And they used to a certain rotation of equipment. All right, if the county does that, then they don't get to control their own replacement. All right, because they may not have the same amount of funds paying half the millage, and then other places may be priorities. So therefore, instead of replacing something that he said 8 years, they might have to wait 10, 12 years. That could make a difference.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to be that guy, but
Go ahead, we're getting off topic
Yeah.
yet. No, I agree. Ms. Miller, thank you very much.
Okay, well, I appreciate it, and
Yes, sir, Mr.
I'll leave you with my words, but again, you know, I have a bunch of copies there. I wasn't sure if I was here for the council, I do.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, I would again, rather than, if you will, dismissing it and saying, oh, let's go on, I think I would recommend, let's go ahead and keep it in the budget, because I don't know what, and I don't think anybody here knows what's really gonna come out in the end of the day in the consolidation. And the worst case, if you will, that comes out of it is that a year from now, or whenever all the millage gets sorted out and everything else, okay, we have a newer fire truck than the department that got our 15-year-old fire trucks. But that's not such a bad deal, because they do have a better fire truck than they had before. And if a consolidation doesn't take place, or is in some other form or whatever, then we're just that much further ahead with it, and we're gonna go ahead and pay for the trucks over the next 15 years without a problem. But if we sort of drop it now, I'm just concerned about when or how it'll ever come back, frankly.
I think we're just wanting to press pause for a moment. That's all we're really
And
doing.
the insurance is an excellent point that I should have included in mine as another concern.
Just pay mine, so that.
Yeah.
You didn't pay mine, what's wrong?
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Let's see, we have our public defender.
Yes, Mr. Chris Scalzo. He's
Hey.
here tonight.
Good evening, I'm Chris Scalzo, I'm the Circuit Public Defender for the 13th Circuit, which is Greenville and Pickens County. Thanks for having me. I know this is the first time I've really been able to meet you all. I was sworn in February of this year, so I'm kind of brand new to the circuit job. I've been in Greenville County Public Defender's Office for 16 years, and I was the interim circuit defender in the 10th Circuit, which is Anderson and Coney, for a year and a half. So that's kind of my background as far as some of my background as far as public defender goes. I sent around, and I think you all should have it, a proposal. What I basically want to point out on that first page is it says a summary of the proposal. In that first little section, it's really kind of where we are, and if nothing were to change, what would end up happening. And the track that we're on the track to carry over about 1,400 clients. That's people. I think it's somewhere between 2 and 3 charges per person. It averages out in Pickens County. We anticipate, again, at the rate that I looked back about 5 years. I went back to fiscal year 13, tried to figure out how many clients were we getting every year. And the rate at which we're getting clients, if you average it out over those 5 years, is just under about 10% every year. We're going up. So for instance, this year we should be around 1,100 clients at the end of this fiscal year. We're probably going to be at 1,200 clients over the course of that next fiscal year. So that's where that 1,200 comes from. If you combine those two, that's why you've got 2,600 people to be represented in that coming up fiscal year 19. The challenge comes when you get to that next little section. With current personnel, we can only close out about 700 or so people. We've got 3 full-time lawyers and a part-time lawyer. If you create a situation where they're working in sort of an optimal scenario, they could probably close about 200 people in a given year. A full-time lawyer, that's where that 700 really comes in. Now, could you get an extra 20 or 30 out of it? I'm sure you could, but it doesn't really put a dent into what's coming in and what you already have. And then what happens is it's exponential. You don't deal with the 1 year, what spills over into the next year just grows and grows and grows. And right now, we are at, for every case you close, you have 1.36 open. So the cup's overflowing by about a third right now. And the goal, and what my plan is, my goal is to get at least to even. So whatever's coming in, you're at least closing out. And then I think with some other efficiencies that are not necessarily adding new personnel, we may be able to get that to dip below the 1 so that you're actually closing a little bit more than you're opening and start working on cleaning things up, so to speak. It's not to say that it's out of control or anything like that, but your business is going to be fairly consistent. It's been consistent since the fiscal year 13. I don't see it not being consistently moving up by roughly about that 10%. So what that does is a more sustainable path. You need 3 full-time lawyers in the Pickens County Public Defender's Office that you don't currently have. You need a paralegal to help balance that out, otherwise your lawyers aren't going to be as effective as they could be. And what that'll do is that'll bring the workload and the production in line and down, and should be at least starting you out with a sort of 1-to-1 ratio on how many you open and how many you can close. Maybe we can do some other things to close that gap a little even lower. What it means as far as money goes for y'all is about $68,000. $68,200 is what I figured out, and the next couple of pages is more the accounting of it, and that breaks down in 2 different ways. So you've got the paralegal, who is the cheaper, the less expensive of all the employees. I calculated somewhere about $45,000 in total costs. So it's like a $31,000 salary position. It's roughly going to be $45,000, $46,000 in costs. We need 3 full-time lawyers. I have the state funds to pay for 2 of those lawyers as starting salaries. That's $77,600 roughly on full-time lawyers' total costs. What's left over for me is only $55,000, and so I need another $22,600, I think it was. That gets me the 3rd lawyer. And so the combination of the request is the full-time paralegal, which is the less expensive of the employees, general appropriation that I could put towards paying for that 3rd full-time lawyer. And so you add it together and you get that $68,000 investment. Essentially what I'm asking y'all to approve gets you 3 lawyers, 1 paralegal, moving in the direction of having a 1-to-1 ratio on what you got coming in and what you got going out. I think a big issue for y'all is the jail, which y'all were started out with. At the rate that the office is operating, you'll fill the jail up and then you won't unfill it. Because there's just no way that the 3.5 lawyers can keep up. I can add the 2 lawyers, and that will make a difference. Obviously, there's no doubt it'll make a difference, but it doesn't get you close enough to your 1-to-1 ratio that you could then start to make enough of a dent in what you got coming in and what needs to go out. The other thing to consider is the solicitor's office, I believe, is at 10 full-time lawyers, really as a staff. And I'm not saying that that's an inappropriate number, but we can't keep pace with them. And it doesn't mean we need 10, but it's just that there's such a distinction that they can outpace us so much that what ends up happening is we slow everybody down. And you can't, the court system can only move as fast as the slowest wheel, and that right now, that's us. I don't like being the slowest wheel, but that's just it's a reality of the amount of people that Mr. DeYoung and the other lawyers have to handle. It doesn't mean they're slow, it just means that the amount of work cannot be made up in hours during the week, and the amount of clients you can see in any given day or week it's fairly finite, and so you need more bodies to get in there to do it. And so that's where the proposal is coming from. The third page of the proposal is more of a balance sheet approach to kind of show you money-wise how much Pickens County is already putting in, what you already have as full-time employees, which are currently 3, 1 lawyer and 2 paralegals. But then it shows where the state funds go, and then it shows the addition that I'm proposing to help get you to a place that we're being as productive as we need to be. And that's kind of what my goal's been in Greenville. I've been doing the same thing in Greenville, and my goal here in Pickens is to treat you all the same. And so that's where the proposal is coming from. And so please ask me questions.
So what you're saying is contradicting what we're hearing. The judges are the ones slowing down things.
No way.
You're saying the judges are doing passing, getting cases handled, getting them out the door. It's just a lack of lawyers to do it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there's no way.
It's not.
It's just it's basically it's numbers, right? So in a court day, if a judge is going to be doing guilty pleas, so then we'll put a trial aside for a second, because a trial is going to be one person, and in a week, what if you could try 2 people? You're lucky. If you're really lucky, you get 3, right? So your numbers don't move based on trials. Your numbers are moving based on guilty pleas. So in a guilty plea day, if you take a Monday and you're going to do guilty pleas, the problem that you have in Pickens is there's 3 of them. If you put 3 lawyers up in front of the judge, maybe you can get 6 people done, and that might take a half an hour to do. But the problem is there is no other public defender talking to anybody else in there. They're not talking to the prosecutor. They're literally standing up in front of the judge, just getting those 6 people done. And the 100 other people that are out and waiting have to wait until they step back down. And then when they step back down, they're caught. Do they go talk to the people and try to get them ready to go, or do they go back up in front of the judge? One way to do you can't do it, and so you run out of live bodies to be able to do it. And I don't think it's the judges, because you get a lot of Judge Verdon, you get a lot of Judge Miller. Both of them do 6 in a group at a clip pretty quickly. I really don't foresee them slowing things down. Now, what you may have happen is that if the public defender's office can't walk into court, because again, they don't have enough people to get everything ready, then what happens is the judges there's nothing ready for the judge to do. So the judge may appear, if you walk into court, it may appear like the judge doesn't have anything to do, because they kind of don't, but it's not that the judge is slowing it down, it's that there's not enough work prepared at the moment that the judge would be ready to go forward with. And that is because leading into it, you didn't have enough manpower in the office, in the public defender's office, to get things ready, and then when you actually get to court, to actually do what's needs to be done that day. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or not, but I don't really think it's the judges holding things. And I don't think it's law enforcement or the prosecutors either. It's just really a function of the disparity in people available to do the work.
I think a lot of times, according to which seat you're sitting in. I sat in the law enforcement seat, and my take on it, Mr. Young does a great job.
He does.
And I'm just telling you, I'm a big fan of his as far as him doing his job. But this is the thing: if you're in a bad system that doesn't work, it's hard to make it work. We have a broken system. We do not have enough court time. 1 week in Pickens County is not enough, because this is what happens. the defense attorneys know that we can't try all the cases that we need to. When you bring in, what, 3,500, 4,000 a year now?
Like warrants? Yeah,
Texas.
probably in warrants
Okay,
you are.
they know that. They know that. So what they do is delay. That's why our jail's full, because they delay until you guys don't, not you guys. You guys are doing this. But the prosecutors, they don't have a choice. They're gonna have to plea bargain. I'm not in favor of plea bargain. If you do a crime, I think your butt needs to go on trial, and if you're convicted, you need to go to the penitentiary down there. But that's not happening. Now this is, Mr. DeYoung, I know this is not anything toward you guys, because this is the system we all have to work in. But let's be honest about what we got here. We probably do need another attorney, but another attorney's not gonna fix it. I mean, it may help us get more plea bargains through, or somebody gets slapped on the wrist for, and has 3 or 4 different times of going for breaking into people's houses before they get in any time whatsoever. So you can understand I'm pretty passionate about this, because I watched it for 31 years. You guys know what I'm talking about. But how do we straighten it out? I don't know that we can straighten it out until we get some more court time. It's not gonna affect you, other than you guys are gonna have some time to go to court.
No, excuse me, it does affect us. We tried several years back, we didn't have the personnel in the office that we have now. We tried doing 2 weeks in a row. With the personnel we have, you can't do it. Then the solicitor's office didn't have quite as many, but we learned after about 2 or 3 months, there was no way any of us could keep up with the personnel we had to do trials or even guilty pleas. Because if you're on the trial docket 3, 4, 5 times, you still have to prepare for those cases. You don't know whether they're gonna go or not, but you still have to prepare for them. So when you're preparing for 3, 4, 5 trials, you can't be preparing guilty pleas.
So let me ask you this, if you got your extra people, and then you got an extra week of court, would it help out?
Oh, absolutely.
How do we do that?
Well,
How do we do that?
Court administration is a fickle
Oh, I
and
know.
confusing little body out there, so I'm not pretending to say that I can do things that I actually can't do. But to start with your first premise, the problem is, take 3 weeks of court, take 4 weeks of court. It won't, what I'm saying is you won't see a difference.
But if we got 1 week, it doesn't matter how many more people we put in there, we can only do so much.
Not true.
There is a limit what you can do in a week.
There is, but y'all don't think you're meeting it.
I understand that. We're not saying we're meeting it.
Right.
But if we could get another week and we get the staff behind it.
Oh, it'd be better. Absolutely. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not suggesting that we don't need more weeks.
So where were you going to, when you started to talk about how you get that extra week? Is having more staff available give you the ability to get that, make that happen?
I think it's a little political, it's complicated. I can tell you how you won't get it. The way you won't get it is if you ask for the week and then a judge comes here and he gets nothing done, and court administration basically, they're keeping track, they know, because what they don't want to do, because you're not the only rural county in the state going, bring us a judge. So they're gonna say, well, we sent one to Pickens, they didn't get enough done, we're not sending it to Pickens anymore, we'll send it to wherever else actually seems like they're producing. So you don't want to be, if that happens, which is not an easy thing to get done anyway, you don't want to be caught in that position where you won't get anything done. So what I'm suggesting is, even if you were to, at this current stage, even if you were to get all the court you wanted, yeah, you'd move a little bit more, but you wouldn't move enough that court administration is going to keep doing it. Because, again, you're stuck with, there's only 3 people that could stand up in front of the judge at any given moment, and there's hundreds of people waiting to be seen by 3 people.
This problem is exacerbated, and I don't know, because I'm in the situation where I've seen both sides of this debate. Whether you should or not is not something I'm weighing in on. But one thing I think y'all need to stress is the 2-judge system. You've got 2 courts going on in 1 week.
That's true.
And how that impacts you.
So, in Greenville, they do it, and I think because the same solicitor's office, they try to do it in Pickens, where what you'll do is you'll have a trial judge and you'll have a plea judge all in the same week. So you have a term of court with a trial judge and a plea judge. And what they're banking on, and I don't mean that in a bad way, what they're banking on is if things fall apart in your trial, again, you can only really try 1, 2, maybe 3 people in a week, everything works out. Now what do you have? You have 2 trial judges, right? I mean 2 plea judges. And from the outside, you're like, yes, that's great. That's like having another extra week of court. Okay, tell me which lawyers are gonna go where. You only got 3, you got 2 courtrooms, so now you got 2 in one courtroom, 1 in one other courtroom. You're running out of bodies to do the work.
Are we getting 1 judge now or 2 judges? So we're having a plea judge and a
right.
court judge.
And
right
it may convert to another plea judge depending on if the cases don't end up being tried or whatever.
So we got
happens.
2 judges and we got 1 lawyer, 2 paralegals.
Well, you got 3 lawyers.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of what you're asking.
What we have right now.
You have 3 full-time lawyers and 2 full-time paralegals currently, and you need 3 more plus another paralegal.
She said they give you 6 total.
They need 6 total. That's right.
And the state's funding the first
2 lawyers.
2.
So we have that.
Right. It's almost 3 court. Right.
This state funding's not done through the local aid subdivision. Is it direct funding?
They get their money.
We got our direct funding from the commission.
You don't have to. Do they give it all to you?
What do you mean?
When they say they're going to fund it, they fund it 100%.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Because I played this game before.
No, I understand that. Our funding is set. The only time we ever ran into that was the 08.
Okay. What you're saying when you say the state,
short of that, you're going to get what is budgeted.
When you're saying the state's going to give you
2.5 positions, they give it directly.
2.5 positions.
Right.
You're saying that's money secured, done.
So
we don't have to put anything into that. We
right.
don't ever have to put anything into that.
No, what happens is the state treasurer over the course of the year, I don't get one lump sum, I get it quarterly basically. I'm gonna get $495,000 for Pickens. That's Pickens, they do it by population. That's Pickens' portion of the pot for the state from public defender's point of view, right? So that $495 is what I'm gonna get over the course of the year. That's what I would get in 18. It's gone up every year. Like for instance, 17 was $490. This year it looks like it's going to be $495. So unless they really change the budget.
What did we do with the money last year?
Say that again.
If we had 490 last year,
you get the 490. Got a couple things happen. You had towards the end of last year, I think it was, there was a big push, and both the solicitors and the public defenders got a larger influx of money. Because what the legislature wanted them to do is say, everybody was saying, hey, we need X amount of lawyers. And so the legislature said, fine, here's a pot. Everybody in the state, go out, get your solicitors, go get your public defenders. And so it was almost like sort of like in the middle or towards the end of the fiscal year, kind of got a bunch of money. Well, that money stayed, so it's going to come back around again into the next fiscal year. The problem that Pickens has is there's literally no place to put the lawyer.
Yeah, I was going to ask about overhead.
Overhead?
Yeah.
And what do you mean by overhead?
Overhead. You gotta have a place to put the people and all that. Are we going to have to provide more rooms for them to feed in?
You don't. The courthouse has already agreed that there's a break room that's right next to the public defender's office.
We're doing some renovations to make room for,
we
guarantee they're gonna do the 2.
We're guaranteed 2.
We're making room for this now.
Push it a little bit,
And
go
get
in a
to
little
one,
bit,
yeah.
get that other one.
And we already I talked to John to talk to maintenance about making sure that we could have essentially 6 offices in the new space as well as the old space so that we can get 6 in there and have the office space for that. And the office space is there, it's just a matter of constructing it so that the offices actually are built, which we will pay for we've said that before, we'll pay for the construction and the development of the offices to get that done. I don't know if I answered that. That's the limit of the overhead as far as what it's going to cost.
But I find something, as a citizen, I find something very frustrating. Some of these freaking meth heads and whoever go out and commit crimes, y'all rush them through the penny waste judge, give them some time served, they go out and commit more crap, and that means they don't commit double crimes, you get them through sooner, possibly.
I just disagree with the characterization. I don't see that. You may see it here and there. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I think if you take a stretch by and large with the, because it's the same judges. You got so the judges in Greenville and the judges in Pickens, it's the same pool of judges that you're playing off of. So I know the sentencing of all basically 4 or 5 judges that you're going to get. I can't now. Will a judge give somebody time served? Yeah, not on a fast case. So if a guy sat in jail for a year and he pled guilty to a possession of meth, there's a good chance he might get time served because he sat in jail for a year. If he was in jail a month and he pled guilty, he ain't getting time served. Now he might get probation.
Yeah, probation, but what is that?
Probation is partly part of the goal of what the sheriff's been saying as far as rehabilitation and making sure that they actually go to drug classes and they go and get a job. I mean, that's your way to get something done, because guess what? You don't go do those things, you can get them back in the jail or you're going to end up in prison. So then I don't believe they're getting just a time served, walk out, go out, and then commit the other thing. That's not. Does it happen? Yes. Is that the bulk of what's happening? I understand.
But Wes, we're way off budget on this part here.
But tying it back in to pay them more money for kids to commit more crime.
We don't have any control over how the judge sentences. We might go in the courtroom with a recommendation. Rarely in Pickens do we do negotiated pleas. So yes, you have that. But you have to remember, sentencing is still totally up to the judge, and I'm not faulting the judges. Please understand that.
I think until maybe a change happens above all our pay grades, we have to operate in the system we are. I want you to understand, this is nothing toward you guys, because I know you do a hard job, and this is not bash you, because I don't know you, but I know Mr. Young. I think a lot of it, but I just think we have to, at some point, I think the sheriff would agree with that. At some point in time, we have to, somebody above us has to go there, and hopefully that will happen.
Well, let me give you the 3-legged stool right quick. Us, we fulfill our, at the courthouse, you'd say we fulfill our end to get new clients. And we have the solicitor and then the public defender. The solicitor's gotten several more positions over the years, this past 3 or 4 years that I've pushed for. And right now, as bad as I hate to say it, he needs help. And we've had that relationship because we've been working on different things, but he is the one now that's holding us up. And a lot of times he's had to use contract people. And if he's more efficient, we're more efficient. And when I say we're more efficient, there's less people in the jail. And that gives us, when they have time to go. But here's what we're lucky in Pickens County, is we've gotten great relationships of where we get, when we need it, we get extra court time. Judge Verdon will come over because I'll ask her. Judge Gravely will volunteer for an extra day. So, but what we're lacking is preparation before that, where everybody's ready to go. And that's where, I don't know of another county who, hey judge, can you come help us? And they're there. Our resident judge has been great to do that, and Judge Verdon has become a good friend, and I asked her to come on over, and they'll work their butt off to do that. So if we've got them more efficient, and we supply plenty of people, and the solicitors have a good staff now. When I became sheriff, there's 3, 4, 5 more. This is our one 3-legged stool that needs a little chop under it to make it even with everybody else.
Going back to what Mr. Hudson talked about, I've heard for years we get situations where they're letting the guys stay in jail so they can get time served. Okay, and so we got, what's the longest standing person we have in detention center?
Right now, but we've had them over 360-some days. A lot of times that was back when mental health was so lagging, people waiting for a bed.
One of the things that I'm trying to, this jail is to make a detention center, not a jail.
Exactly.
So we can get them, our prison. You know, it's, the idea is they're here so they can get tried and moved on. And what you're telling me is that if we can get these people, that, was that gonna give you more leverage to get us more time?
Yeah.
That
Well,
we can move
you
more
have-
people through the system?
We have John counted, we have 111 people in your jail. That's not what's in the jail, that's just who we have. So, if we can't get to those 111 people, you can build a new jail. Those 111 people just gonna go in that jail, and then you can't get them out. And I could tell you, as I've told Greenville, I've told John, I don't play you delay because that's what you do. I've never, if a client tells me to delay because he's got a plan and delay and that's the best thing for his case, then I'll consider doing that and we'll figure it out. Most clients don't ask me to delay their case. It's not in their best interest generally to do that anyway. There are some cases that need to be delayed because things have to be worked out, investigations need to be completed and so forth, but that's not 90% of the cases. That's less than probably 10% of the cases. The delay comes from the fact that if you don't have enough time to get it done, I'm gonna go to the prosecutor and say, I can't get to this guy, you're gonna have to put him off. I can't get to this guy, you're gonna have to put him off. And I understand from the outside looking in, it appears as if my methodology for defending the client is to slow things down. It is only because I don't have enough time to get it done, but it is not my methodology of choice, it is the methodology of your circumstance. And I guess what I'm trying to say to y'all is two things. One, don't equate what we do with helping the defendant commit the crime. It'll be a mistake, and it's not a philosophical mistake, I think it's an actual practical mistake. Because what you're gonna end up doing is you're not gonna fund us appropriately, and as the sheriff is saying, your third leg of the stool is gonna be this short, and it doesn't, you're not hurting me. I mean, I'm gonna work a little hard, and John's gonna work a little hard, but you're actually hurting yourselves much more so in the community because you can't get those people done. And the second thing I'd say is, if you're gonna spend $23 million on a jail, you don't want it filled up on day one and not be able to unfill it. And what I'm suggesting to you is that for $68,000, you might have a chance at unfilling your jail. If not, I don't know that I can help you unfill it.
So a couple of years from now, when we are back in this room talking, we're probably gonna see, what you're telling me is we're probably gonna see a smoother system and people getting through this system faster.
And I think one thing.
You should want it.
One thing you have to remember, when our client says they want to try, we are bound by it.
Yeah.
I mean, they may be using it as a delay tactic, and I suspect sometimes they are. But when they say, I want a trial, I don't care how long I sit in this jail, I want a trial, we can't move that case except by trial.
And that's the ones I would love to have a judge ready to give them a trial.
Well, I think your judges are. I think one of the things you run into is you can't get out of, not you, but we can't get out of our own way.
Yeah.
So in other words, you could segregate everybody and go, okay, out of John's clients, how many want trials or in that position? He could identify those people, and I bet you it's less than 10% of his clients. But the problem is the 90% are in your way. You can't get to the trial because there's 90% of people that you can't get through, and they're not saying they want trial. They just want to get their case resolved in the best way that they can. Solicitor and the sheriff want to get it resolved too, but you can't move past them. So my suggestion to you is that until you can get it in some parity, you're having the lawyers run into each other and really not getting anything done, and that's not helping your community.
The
That's
bad thing
what I'm
about it is
suggesting.
most of his clients are guilty.
Yeah, but even if they are, you can't get them in the court.
Would you be willing to come back next year, say we start July 1, come back next year with a report?
Absolutely.
Compare how many's been processed through?
I could tell you that one of the things I learned in working to put these numbers together was the need to be accurate about it. Because I counted today and I didn't have 111, and I said I had a bigger number in terms of the jail. And I said to John, what number do you have? And then we conferred, and he figured out the more accurate number of 111. So I absolutely we'll do that, because I'm gonna continue to do that. Because that's the only way we can talk apples and apples. I can't talk apples and apples with the solicitor unless I can do that, and obviously with the sheriff and the court, so.
We can't have a system where we're bringing in more carryovers from last year than we have new people this year. That's absolutely ludicrous. That won't work.
Trey, just as a quick footnote, we didn't get the cost together on building, on doing an addition to the jail. Doing 80-bed addition to the jail is about $4 million. We could pay this $68,000, roughly 58 years. If what he's saying is correct, it's a good investment. If you do decide you want to do it, we were able to work on some things today, guaranteed. We will come in at least $107,000 below our cost for our liability and property insurance. 80% of that will be general fund money. There is enough there if you decided you wanted to fund this to do this. We always try to bring you a solution when we bring you a problem.
You got a guesstimate on what percentage you represent versus non-public defender?
I tried to work on that with Betty Stroud, the deputy solicitor. Part of the problem is they count warrants, we count people, and so I have a goal to kind of mesh that and try to figure out a way to do it. So that the number is an easy number to give you other people. I don't know the number, but I could tell you from talking to judges and talking to John and the other public defenders, there aren't enough other lawyers showing up to court. So they may have the cases, and in other words, you may go, it's 60%. I'm pulling a number out, when you actually, everything's said and done. But in terms of who's on the trial dockets, who's being called in the court, who's in the courtroom, it's the public defender's office that's in there and is doing the plea. So I don't know, sometimes that's age of case. That's a whole other bunch of explanations. I guess it could be for private lawyers who have clients. So I wish I could give you, it's a goal of mine to try to figure out what that percentage is accurately, because I'm not afraid of the percentage being low or high. So in other words, even if we're doing 50% of the business in Pickens County, what I care about is, what does that 50% mean? If the 50% means that I'm getting 1,100 new people every year, then I can tell you I need 6 lawyers to deal with the 1,100 people that come in. If that's 90%, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me in terms of the percentage, because I just know what my workload is. The workload is there's 1,100 people, 1,200 people that are going to come through the public defender's office new. Did I deal with the people from the last year, and can I get that to be low? That'd be great, but I know 1,100 to 1,200 people are going to come in new over the course of the year. It may be 50, it may be 60, it could be higher or lower. I don't know if that really answers your question, but it is an important statistic to know, but not as important as some of these other ones, I guess is what I'm saying.
I've been here 18 and a half years, and I walk around Pickens County easily. I sometimes feel like we represent all of them. I know full well we don't. It's rare I can stop by the hot spot and at least 3 people don't come to me and say, Mr. DeLong.
And I kind of like putting John on the hot seat because he did that enough to me.
Did you have to testify?
We appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate y'all listening to me. I appreciate your questions.
Yes, sir.
Thank you all much.
And please, if you need more, you just ask me. I'll come back. You have a good night. Thank you.
It almost like he's a lawyer or something.
Next, Mr. Chairman, we have the library. I recommend that we do this discussion, go into executive session, because it does involve personnel. Here to do a presentation.
Are we talking about particular personnel, or individuals, or groups? Like last time we went into executive session, I personally thought that was more of a general conversation.
It is a general conversation, but when you talk about employees, with all due respect, I think they need to hear it from us before they hear it from social media.
Well, I don't think we're talking about particular. I guess it goes back to,
that's up to you guys.
I just tell you my feelings on this. When we went in executive session, I feel like we're talking about a budget needs to be open. We're not talking about any personnel issue with an individual. We're talking about groups. We weren't even getting rid of people. We were talking about moving, and you move people around all the time.
The fear, though, was that we were getting rid of people because of what they saw on social media, and it created kind of a firestorm, no pun
But if it was all an open discussion, it wouldn't be feared because.
No, that's when we did it before. You know what I'm saying? It became, when we had the open discussion before without going into executive, people began to fear for their job and they got flooded with phone calls. So, but I'll leave that up to you guys.
I'm just more in the transparent.
No, listen, we're, Councilman Whitehurst, we are 100,000% more transparent than when you were councilman 4 years ago. I can promise you that.
I'm not going to debate that.
But you're saying we're not being transparent. I mean,
No, I didn't say you weren't. I said, I feel like the air on transparency, if we're gonna talk about something in the budget, I think it's something.
Okay.
If we're not talking about a particular personnel issue,
we're
we're
gonna
talking
be,
about.
we're gonna be talking about some things that will affect individuals, across the board, financially.
It could affect individual employees.
Yes.
But we're not particular, anyway. I thought.
It could affect-
We'll discuss it in here if you want to, an open or behind.
Well, y'all,
I'll
we
leave
vote on
I'll
it.
leave it up to you guys. We would need a motion in a second to vote on going to executive.
What if we, go to executive session, discuss it, and if we see that it's not harmless, end it, and come back out? But I understand what you're saying.
I'm fine
About
doing
causing fear in where there doesn't need to be fear.
Fear when there doesn't need to be fear, yes.
I understand that part.
I will, looking for a motion in a second.
Motion.
Motion to go into executive session, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by, Mr. Feimster.
And I request that it be brief.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Motion carried. We'll go into a brief executive session.